And welcome, Eric Levy, to
Thank you.
our classroom. Thanks for coming in today.
I appreciate it. Good to be here.
All right, Eric, can you talk a little bit about your career in market research and tell us what you've done?
Yeah. So, like a lot of people, I didn't know that I wanted to be in marketing research until I'd actually been in the field. When I was going to school, my actual interest was in advertising, and I wanted to be in an advertising agency. So, after I got started after school, one of the things I figured out pretty quickly is that I was really in tune with the quantitative side of the business, which led me to be the director of media for an advertising agency. From there, I just love the numbers. I love, pulling out my sword and crossing them with media reps all day long. They were arguing for me to buy their product and their spots on their station. I had lots of information on my side about what I needed. And so that was a lot of fun. I went and saw a graduate professor talking about marketing research. And I said, why am I not doing that? So I went and spoke to her after the class was finished, and she said, hey, I'm actually starting up a marketing research company of my own that does advertising research and brand research primarily. I'd love to have your chops on my team. So I went and joined a 3-person marketing research agency, learned the business from literally the ground up, working for all kinds of clients. And then here I am many years later, I don't even want to say how many, doing marketing research as my career for the last X number of years. I got to say that I'm not sorry at all. I'm a curious person. I love seeing how the work that I do leads to creative outcomes and outcomes that actually deliver value to businesses. And that's probably the most pumped up I can get about anything I can do.
It's amazing. So a lot of my students sitting here right now, in a required advertising PR research class, wondering, does anybody actually use this stuff in the real world? Can you talk about companies or brands that use research to solve problems in terms of
Sure.
survey research specifically?
Yep. So from the brand side, from the actual company side, we get hired by companies all the time like GoPro. GoPro was a client that came to us and they said, for years we've been building cameras. We've been pretty successful at understanding people who are interested in exports and very active lifestyles. But we've sort of done this by seat of our pants in the conference room thinking. And so we've essentially been pushing out product based on what we think. And we're really kind of worried that one of the things that we're doing is we're not including our customers in the design process. So they said, can you give us a way to help customers help us design the camera that they'd want to buy next? Even if they own our product or if they've never even heard of us before, what kind of camera can we design for those kinds of people? So we sat down and we actually did something called a conjoint study that traded off different kinds of features that customers could include. Part of that was actually evaluating for themselves how much they would be willing to pay by adding in various options and things like that. And when they got to the end of it, they had GoPro 7 or GoPro Black, which was their most successful introduction ever. It's their best-selling camera. They are wondering how they're ever going to be able to follow that up. So that's the kind of research you can do for a company. Conversely, you can work for a media company or an advertising agency who is also trying to take a product like a GoPro camera or a service or even fast moving consumer goods and do a better job of communicating the important aspects of that to consumers. So for instance, we work with advertising agencies in a few different areas. One, to help develop concepts. So we're not the ones who actually come to the creative team and say, here's a bunch of concepts, we're going to test them now. We go to the creative team and we educate them about what their target consumers like and dislike. We make them real because at the end of the day, these creatives are hungry for insight and they're looking for ways to connect with the people that they're going to be advertising to. So that's step one, is educating them. That's a lot of desk research often. Step two is they come up with a lot of different concepts. They, talk among themselves with their own process to develop these ideas. But then at the end of the day, they don't know which ones are going to have the most amount of appeal. And they want to know why, not just which one wins, not from a horse race perspective, but what they can learn from the different, executions that they're sharing. So then that's concept testing. We go through and we show a bunch of concepts to folks, and we're not so much testing them as we are exposing them to consumers who have an opinion. They'll say, I like this, it's intuitive, it makes sense to me. No, that's difficult and confusing to understand. That helps both the art directors as well as the copywriters figure out how to frame this better. And then we end up with an ad that they think is going to be a winner. They have a client, and just like a lot of clients, the clients are saying, well, tell me why this ad is going to be better for my company than the last ad that you guys ran. So we'll do A/B testing. We'll test ad A that's already been very, very successful in the marketplace. And digitally, they'll also do test B, an ad that they've just developed. And they'll look to see among the same kinds of people whether or not ad A is better than ad B. And if ad B wins, quote unquote wins, then they'll go out with ad B and run that and keep developing ads to continue to test and learn and find out how they can do a better job of communicating. So those are just two aspects of what we can do. There's many, many more, obviously.
Yeah, it's such a wild field with so many. I mean, you have so many tools and so many abilities to help clients and agencies solve problems. And you're talking about both qualitative and quantitative of sorts. When do you recommend to clients to seek quantitative research? So if the qualitative research is really helping with understanding why, like deep motivation, things that people can really articulate, the ability to explore concepts, when do you recommend quantitative research?
Primarily to answer the question why. Often these companies have humongous databases or, good databases that they're using, and they can get a lot of insights from, doing machine learning or predictive analytics on those databases, but those only tell you the what. So you can be very good at predicting which customer will respond to a treatment if you approach them and, say this is, with a level of confidence, I can predict that this customer will do better in a digital marketing campaign than these other customers over here, and make a great case for doing that alone. But that doesn't answer the question why, and it certainly doesn't help somebody in the creative field or the advertising field decide where to place this advertising and why, and what kinds of things do you expose to these consumers and why. And those are really critical questions if you want to continue to learn within your own business and continue to be successful. So the best way to know when a client needs to actually do research of any kind is when the questions become, why are consumers behaving that way, and how can we leverage those attitudes and feelings that they have? And by the way, what are those attitudes and feelings? Because my database only captures how many times they bought, how they bought from us, how many times they looked at my website, whether or not they clicked on buy the first time and then backed out of the shopping cart. All of those kinds of things come to me naturally in my business, but I don't know why they do that. And I'd love to be able to follow them around, sit behind them in their homes, ask them questions on a survey or whatever to do a better job of actually making sure that they understand the implications of, doing better creative, to fine tuning your media plan or your digital, in a fashion that actually has better results, not just from a, gee, this is really cool, it works, but a, hey, we can programmatically decide how to do this better on an ongoing basis and continue to make better money, more efficient, programs going forward.
I love it. So it really sounds from your words and your experience that triangulation is really the way to go. I mean, using both secondary research and then qualitative and quantitative
Huge. Yes.
So
Yeah.
no one
Sorry.
method trumps the other.
Yeah. I mean, always start with your primary, what I call primary research, meaning the secondary desk research to understand the lay of the land. If you don't take the low-hanging fruit of what you already know, you sometimes are wasting your clients' money and time because there's a lot of things out there that are already available. Why wouldn't you dig into the census or industry studies about your clients' products and services? Why wouldn't you look and see lessons learned from other campaigns or even other product lines that don't even have anything to do with your client's industry? There's lots of things that financial services can learn from fast-moving consumer goods. There's lots of things that auto can learn from electronics. And so, taking low-hanging fruit first and then building your story about what things are important to the client based on their reactions to the story is probably the best thing. And doing that methodically and moving forward and saying, what is our next key learning challenge, or what's the next thing that the client needs to learn in order to be a better client and a better producer of goods and advertising for those goods.
I love it. Can you give one more case study, a real life example of a client that came to you guys with a problem and you used either quantitative or qualitative or triangulated research to help them solve it?
Yeah, so there's a really well-known media brand. You all may have heard of it. There's a doctor who tends to float around in a phone booth. They were very interested in the idea of how to have a better relationship with fans of this program. So they knew that there were people who adored them across all age groups. It's been going on as a brand for a long time. So they wanted to know if they created something like a club.
Which brand? I'm a little out of popular culture. Which brand are we talking about?
Doctor Who.
Doctor Who. Okay.
Doctor Who, one of the BBC's best programs. So Doctor Who, the Doctor Who people at the BBC actually wanted to know how they could maybe develop a club and would people even be interested in this. So they started with primary research to segment their customers. They wanted to know across all people who've ever watched Doctor Who, which ones are really fans. How much did they watch? Which doctors in the past? Which doctors now? Why do they watch it? All those kinds of things fit into a big segmentation study and allowed us to develop 7 distinct groups, some of whom were super fans. They'll do anything in order to be associated more with Doctor Who. They like to talk.
I'm sorry, Eric, are these psychographic categories?
Yeah, they're combined of psychographic and behaviors. So both attitudes and behaviors were part of the segmentation. So, how often did they watch? How many shows did they buy? The DVDs. Did they go back and have videotapes from the 1980s in their collection as well? If there are books or fan fiction or anything like that, did they buy those? Those will all have behavioral questions. And then, what does Doctor Who do for them? What does it make them feel? What other science fiction do they like? What other kinds of things associated with Doctor Who are they interested in? Do they go to conventions? All of those things allowed us to segment consumers effectively. And then from the segmentation, they now had 7 different groups who they could range from, high interest in the Doctor Who product to somewhat low, just I like to watch it once in a while when I happen to catch it. And then they started checking the idea of a club. They traded off different aspects and attributes of the club. You could join it for this amount of money. You could pay monthly, pay yearly. Here's all the types of features or benefits of the club that you could get, and allowed them to actually trade off and understand which ones were most interesting and least interesting to each of those 7 groups. Not surprisingly, the group with the most interest and affinity for the Doctor Who product were interested in almost everything, literally, and would pay almost anything. And then, of course, the ones who were less interested, were interested in a few things, or were not interested enough to pay their money to do it. They just liked the product a lot and just keep it coming. So that really allowed the folks at the BBC to make a decision about whether or not to launch the club, which they are launching, which things to include immediately that they need to build immediately versus maybe later on, and which things they can get more money for if they offered it in the club versus things that are just foundational. They just should offer at the base price and not worry about having higher levels of the club to get these better products or services.
I love it. So from GoPro to Doctor Who, market research can really help out. Eric, one final question for you, and I always like to cap off my interviews with this question. What advice do you have for my undergraduate students here at TCU who are taking market research classes with me? What would you like to suggest to them as they think about their career moving forward?
So, get involved with the companies that you like here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. There's a ton of marketing research companies and a ton of advertising agencies. Get yourself an internship. I would recommend that highly. I did a ton of internships, which led me to, wanting to be in advertising. I worked for advertising agencies. Even though it's free, I learned so much. They actually, got desperate and actually asked me to paste up ads when they were running against deadlines. So you really see the process and how they make the soup. So that's one thing. The other thing is join your industry organizations. The American Marketing Association has got 2 main sections besides academia that they support. One is the marketing field, which is very broad. but it includes advertising, public relations, and other types of communications. They also have a marketing research side. And if you get involved to hear speakers from all of the different areas, both the marketing side as well as the marketing research side, that'll help you understand and help you meet people from different companies here in the area that you might be interested in, help you maybe get those internships. It might even help you get a job if you impress your colleagues sitting at a lunch table for a lunch and learn, with your smarts or the good questions that you ask. I think that's probably the best way to start to create your network. I would also say join LinkedIn. Even though it's not really a social network per se, it's a great business network, and being connected to folks on LinkedIn is a great way to see who they're connected to and what companies they're interested in, who they follow, what articles they read. All of those kinds of things are really brilliant for being able to shape your career and move forward.
Well, I definitely connected with you through LinkedIn, and I'm
Indeed.
so happy I did it. You provided us with so much great information, and I really want to thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the time to talk to your students today.
All right. Go Frogs, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too.